Alright, today we're going to be looking at solving percent story problems. Solving percent story problems. Let's get started. Some jokes. If you get it, pass it on. My dad set this up and said, they sing because they can. It's time for some daily review. Okay. Feel free to pause the video and try this on your own. Decimal 35. It's 35 hundredths. We want to write this as a percent and a fraction. To convert this into a percent, we have to move the decimal 2 places to the right. And we'll get 35%. Now as a fraction, it's out of 100, 35 hundredths, so we'll get 35 over 100, which simplifies to 7 over 20. Let's look at letter B. Write it as a percent and a fraction. To convert this into a percent, we'll have to move it 2 places to the right, and we get 135%. To make this into a fraction, we have 1 and 35 over 100, which is the same thing as 1 and 7 over 20. There we go. For today's lesson, we're going to be focusing on 2 primary proportions. Remember, a proportion is an equation where 2 ratios are equivalent to each other. So, is over of equals 2% over 100. We're also going to use part over whole is equal to percent over 100. Let's get started with example number 1. Find 28% of 25. Feel free to pause the video and try this on your own. So we want to use our percent over 100 is over us percent over 100. So let's write that again. Okay, so we have is over of equals percent over 100. So we want to identify what our percent is first. So we have, let's see, equals 28 over 100. And our of 25 is 25. So therefore we're missing the is. Now we have our proportion set up. We can go ahead and solve for x. I'm going to solve for x like we practiced by using cross products. I'll start off by multiplying x times 100 to get 100x. Next, I'll multiply 25 times 28, and some quick calculation tells me that it's 700. Finally, to get our variable by itself, I'll divide both sides by 100. And x equals 7. So then find 28% of 25. Well, it's 7. Let's take a look at question number 2. 81 is 56% of what number? Feel free to pause the video and try this on your own. So again, we're going to want to use is over of equals percent over 100. Let's fill in the blanks. 81 is, so that's my is, of what, so I'm missing the of part, is equal to 28 over 100. Now my proportion is set up. Now, like our last example, I'll go ahead and I'll use cross products. I'll start by multiplying 28 times x. 28 to get 28x. Then I'll multiply 81 times 100 to get 8100. Now I'll divide both sides by 28. And 8100 divided by 28 is about, again, pause the video and try this on your own, 144 and 6400ths. So 81 is 56% of what number? About 145. Number 3. 11 is what percent of 97? All right, so again, we're going to want to use our is over of equals percent over 100. Let's fill in our blanks. 11 is, okay, so that means we have 11 over of 97. Percent, what percent? What means I don't know. So x over 100. Now we have our proportion set up. Now we'll use cross products like our previous examples to get 97x is equal to 1100. Now we have to isolate our variable and divide both sides by 97. The 11s, the 97s cancel out, and 1100 divided by 97 is about 11.34. 11 is what percent of 97? It's about 11%. Some story problems. We're going to want to use the part over whole equals percent over 100 strategy. Mr. Carroll, school principal, spent $2,000 to buy some new computers of equipment. Of this money, 120 was used to buy some new keyboards. What percent of money was spent on keyboards? Again, we want to use part over whole equals percent over 100. So we'll start off by setting up a proportion here, asking you, what is the amount that is the total or the whole? Do you know? Well, the whole is the amount spent, so that is going to be 2,000. Therefore, my part is going to be 120. I don't know my percentage, so I'll put an X there. Oops, I almost put 100 or a percent sign. Like that. Now I have my proportion set up, I can go ahead and solve for x. I'll start by cross multiplying to get 2,000 x. Next I'll multiply 120 times 100 to get 12,000. After that, I'll divide both sides by 2,000 to cancel out the 2,000s. I'll do the same thing here. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So what percentage of money was spent on keyboards by Mr. Carroll? 6%. Next question. 12 of the students in the school choir like to sing solos. These 12 students make up 24% of the choir. How many students are in the choir? So we want to use our percent over 100 strategy, part over whole. So let's set up a proportion. So we'll start off by having, let's see, an equal sign with 2 slashes. Percent means per 100, so I know it has to be over 100, and it's 24%. Well, it says in the last sentence how many students are in the choir. So that's what we're missing. And then we know that there's 12 that like to sing solos. And there we go. We've set up our proportion. Let's go ahead and use cross products and figure out what x is. 12 times 100 is 1200. And 24 times x is 24x. Next, I'll divide both sides by 24. And I'll get 1200 divided by 24. "24 times 5 is 120. And then I can't do 24 into 0 because it's 0. So we end up with 50. So x equals 50. Did you notice a trick here? What times blank gives me 24? Times 2. So we can divide by 2 here to get 50. How many students are in the choir? There are 50 students in the choir. Write 57% as a ratio. Which part of the ratio represents the part and which part represents the whole? Explain. Well, remember that a percent is per 100. So it's out of 100. So as a ratio, this would be 57 over 100. So the 57 would represent the part, and the 100 would represent the whole. Because again, percent is out of 100 and per 100. You learned how to find